This is a place of authentic transformation, and we are so grateful that you have joined with us today on this special day after Thanksgiving. I hope you're not too filled with turkey, or at least you've managed to wake yourself up from your tryptophan coma long enough to join with us this morning for our special service. I'm so pleased to announce that our special musical guests today are the KYSHONA Armstrong Trio. KYSHONA Armstrong is one of my favorite songwriters in the world. No, she's probably just my favorite. I love KYSHONA's music, and Maureen Murphy sings with her, and of course, what is your name? Nikki Conley as well. So sit back, relax, and enjoy KYSHONA Armstrong and the trio.
The weather's always changing. It's sunny, then it's raining. Daylight's always fading. Stars are moving through the sky. And people all around you, they only tell you what they want to. Never know what all they're going through. And we're all just passing by. We all got our reasons to be afraid. It's easy to give up and hide away. I'm gonna try to be alive. Try. In a world that's ever spinning, do my best to keep on living. I'm gonna try to be alive. Try. On a ground that's ever shifting, I will fight to be forgiven. Yesterday's problems, today we already forgot them. They'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll be surprised again. At the end of every season, we'll fall down on our knees and start praying there's a reason. Blowing somewhere in the wind, I know I fail myself from time to time. I will not surrender. I'm gonna try to be alive. Try. In a world that's ever spinning, do my best to keep on living. I'm gonna try to be alive. Try. On a ground that's ever shifting, I will fight to be forgiven. I'm gonna try. Oh, try. I'm gonna try. On a ground that's ever shifting, I will fight to be forgiven.
Thank you guys for reminding us why we're called Unity of Music City. We have great music all the time, but it's great to have some special music too. I'm asking the trio to stay up here right now. We've just got a few things to talk about today, just one or two quick announcements. On December 13th, right after church, we're going to have a town hall meeting, and that town hall meeting is going to be discussing in what direction is the church going. And I think it's west. I'm not sure. But come and find out. You can join us via Zoom or come here in the sanctuary after the service on December 13th for our town hall meeting. And what I want to do right now, since we just have a few, to keep the moving parts down a little bit, since we have a skeleton crew, is go ahead and do the offering affirmation. So as you know, the folks who are here, there are red buckets in the back, but those who are watching, you can go to the website, unityofmusiccity.com, and there are ways to pay on there for your tithes and offerings. But if you will say along with me, I am open to receiving floods of financial abundance with ease so that I may be able to give back even more to the world around me. And now let's have some more music.
Just gonna rest our bones in the cleft of the rock, keep on marching on. No, cleft of the rock. Keep on marching on. Down in the soil, deep down in the water, well, there's a crack that's breaking backs. We can't mend it all alone. Come along, you weary, gather around, you strong. We will give a voice to peace, where love can be our song. No, no, we ain't gonna go. Just gonna rest our bones in the cleft of the rock. Keep on marching on. No, no, we ain't gonna go. Just gonna rest our bones in the cleft of the rock. Keep on marching on. Coming higher and higher up the rough side of this mountain. No, we will not say a word, no, till we get to the other side. No, no, we ain't gonna go. Just gonna rest our bones in the cleft of the rock. Keep on marching on. No, no, we ain't gonna go. Just gonna rest our bones in the cleft of the rock. Keep on marching on. One by one, two by two, hands behold, me and you. Three strands, strongest cord, pull us through. Down in the cleft of the rock, we gon' make this mountain move. No, no, we ain't gonna go. Just gonna rest our bones in the cleft of the rock. Keep on marching on. No, no, we ain't gonna go. Just gonna rest our bones in the cleft of the rock. Keep on marching on. And then we keep on marching on. And then we keep on marching on. And then we keep on marching on. Yes. And then we keep on marching on.
Our sacred reading today, our affirmation is, I greatly accept the gift of grace. I experience grace in various forms as divine love, as pure goodness, as forgiveness, and as absolute oneness with Spirit. Grace is one of my greatest gifts. While I cannot outgive God, I can be a conduit through which these gifts flow into the world. I pass along the good I receive every chance I get. I am a caring presence to people I know and can transmit love through my prayers, thoughts, and actions. I have an opportunity to serve by using my unique gifts and talents to perpetuate the flow of good and grace in the world. Giving is an expression of my gratitude for divine grace. It keeps me humble, open to receive, and awake to my countless blessings. Again, our affirmation is, I greatly accept the gift of grace.
So just wherever you are right now, let's take a few moments to just stop. Just stop our mind. Maybe stop our vision by closing our eyes. Stop paying attention to all of the things that want to grab our attention from us. And rest in that idea that we have been given the gift of grace. We can think back on our life and see times when grace came through, when love came through. And we can remember those moments with a warm heart and a smile on our face. But when we still ourselves and we rest in the quiet, we are able to know that this grace never leaves us. It is a part of the core of our being, always ready to come through for us. And we remember that in the silence. Let's take a moment to remember in the silence. The grace of the universe is a divine flow that moves through me, from me, out into the world, all the time that I stop to become aware of it, in every moment when I stop to remember that grace is under everything I do.
I'm gonna try to be alive. Try. In a world that's ever spinning, do my best to keep on living. I'm gonna try to be alive. Try. On a ground that's ever shifting, I will fight to be forgiven.
Thank you guys so much, ladies, guys. Guys, I say guys all the time. It's maybe not the best thing to say. I'm really grateful that Nikki agreed to read the sacred reading today because it's one of those days. We do have a light crew on today, so I'm trying to wear a lot of hats. So I'm shifting into the talk here a little bit. So let me reframe. Let me just, okay, there we go. I'm ready. Today we're talking about making peace with our decisions. And lately I've been thinking a lot about choices. I think it might be the time of year because the biggest choice that I make every year is what to get my mother for Christmas. And what do you get the woman who has everything, right? So right again, I'm faced with this conundrum, if you will, of what do I get my mother for Christmas? But it's also maybe because of my age. I don't know about you, but we do get to an age in life where we look back on some of the decisions that we've made and we start to assess them a little bit. They say that a presidency cannot be truly assessed for about 20 years, right? It takes about 20 years or 20 minutes, maybe sometimes in some cases. But it takes about 20 years to fully assess a presidency. And I think our life choices are somewhat similar. The farther we get away from them, the more clarity of vision, that hindsight is 20/20 kind of thing, right? We make a lot of decisions. I was reading this week in Psychology Today that the average adult human being makes 35,000 choices a day, which seems impossible, quite frankly. But if you take out the 7 or 8 hours that people are asleep, and you take that down per hour then after with what you've got left over, it's about 2,000 choices an hour, or 1 every 2 seconds. Once every 2 seconds, we are making some kind of decision. Like, I made a decision to gesture with my right hand. I made a decision to talk about choices today, right? I made a decision to just do this. So we're constantly making decisions. So it would make sense that if we are constantly making these decisions, that in the course of a lifetime, that 1 or 2 of them might come with a little bit of regret. Now, I know we don't like to talk about regret in unity. We like to say that everything works for good, right? We like to focus on the good, and that's good. But you know me, I love a good paradox. I believe that we can do both things. We can focus on the good, we can recognize that things work out for the good, and we can also look back on decisions, sometimes with a little regret, right? I mean, that's how we learn. That is kind of a sign that we're learning something along the way when we look back and say, boy, I would do that differently now. I used to say, I live my life with no regrets. Whatever has happened, you know what, that makes me who I am. But I do want it noted for the record that I said that in my 20s. Because the older I get, the less I'm able to say that a little bit. I have a little bit more grace to let go of things, but there are some decisions that I wish I hadn't made, and I think we all have those decisions that we've made, right? I wish I'd never gotten on that plane. I wish I had stopped what I was doing and played with my kids more. I never should have started that affair. I should have moved to Los Angeles and pursued an acting career. I should have gone to a different college. I should have gone to college. I wish I had handled that breakup better. I wish I hadn't used that snippy tone when I was talking to that person. If I had it to do over again, I would have gone to Grandma's house that Christmas in 1976. I didn't know it would be her last. In 8th grade, I joined in with the group that was bullying that one weird girl. Boy, I wish I had done that differently. All of our choices become memories that shape our understanding of ourselves. About a week or so ago, I was talking to my sister on the phone, and she was talking about a choice that she made over 20 years ago that still has a residue. There's still a fallout from that choice that she made, that she is living with. Some decisions don't feel like much of a choice. It feels like you have to make them. And yet, we look back and we sometimes beat ourselves up or feel the pain all over again. So, after that conversation with my sister, where she was talking about this choice that she made, that she's still living with, I started thinking about these two guys right here. Now, I'm putting the tears early in this talk so that I can recover and move beyond them, but I'm just going to tell you right now that I'm not going to get through the next few minutes without a few tears. This is Pepper and Sebastian. Sebastian is on the left, a Great Pyrenees mix rescue. Pepper's on the right, Australian Shepherd mix rescue, the gray Merle on the right. These were my two babies. Both rescues. I rescued them within 6 months of one another. They were a pack. They had lived their whole lives together. 5 years ago, I found myself in a situation where I had to make some really tough decisions. I had gone through a bad breakup 10 years ago. I had found myself in a situation with my house where I just couldn't maintain it any longer. I needed to downsize. I needed to move to an apartment. And I had to figure out what to do with these two guys right here. They were at that point 6 and 7 years old, and they were kind of my shadows. They went with me everywhere, followed me around the yard, and went to the store with me and did just about everything. But I knew that it would not be fair for these two guys who'd had 2 acres to run on to live in this apartment. And so I made a decision. Now, over the course of the years, you create ways to justify the decisions that you make in your head, right? Well, here's the reason why, and I did this, and I did this, and I did this. And the truth is, when life kind of crashes down in on you, a lot of times you get these blinders on, and you're blind to all the options that you have, and all you see is this one way through. I believe that everybody at any given moment is making the best decision they know how to make. Nobody sets out to make a bad decision. Now, from the outside, I've seen friends of mine where I'm saying, oh, you're making a bad decision right now. It's really easy to see from the outside what other people are doing and should be doing differently. But in that moment, when you are that person, you're making the best decision you know how to make. I did what my father would have described as dropping back and punting, right? You drop back and punt. And so I decided that I needed to find a home for these two guys. And so I did. I put an ad on Craigslist. I know, don't even start with me on that. I put an ad on Craigslist. It was only the second time in my life I've put an ad on Craigslist. The first time was to get rid of chickens. I had 24 chickens I needed to rehome. And I was teaching at TSU at the time. I put the ad on Craigslist. I went and taught a class, and I came back, and I had 74 responses. 74 people ready to come pick up those chickens right now. I put an ad on Craigslist for these two guys. I put these two pictures on there. I said on the ad, I said, listen, they have to go together. They're a family. They belong together, and I won't let them go otherwise. And you have to have a yard that's fenced in. It has to be big, and they have to have room to play. And by the way, I will be interviewing you. I made it absolutely the hardest thing in the world, right? I was trying to do everything to save myself from my own decision, if you will. And in 4 days' time, I got one response. And that one response came from a young woman named Alicia. She lived down in Nolensville. She was about 25 years old, and she looked to be about 12. But she had her own house, and she had a fenced-in backyard, and it was fantastic. And we started talking back and forth. And pretty soon, I went down there to Nolensville to see the house. It worked out beautifully. The dogs loved her. I turned to her at one point, and I said, it's a God thing. And she said, this is a total God thing. So it felt like this was the thing to do, right? She told me that I could come back and visit them anytime I wanted to. And I went back about a month later, and when I walked in the door, I wanted to give the dogs enough time to kind of get used to this new place. When I walked in the door, Sebastian immediately got up from where he was sitting on the floor, came over to me, got up on his hind legs, put paws on both my shoulders, and laid his head on one of my shoulders. Tore me up. So when I left that day, I decided I couldn't go back. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it to myself. I couldn't do it to them. I had to let them go. So last week, after talking to my sister and thinking about Pepper and Sebastian, I decided to reach out to the young woman who had taken them. I followed her on Instagram. I had ways of reaching her. I didn't tell Nikki this, but in my head I had a little scenario worked out where she was like, oh, they've been great, everything's been perfect, but I really need to rehome them now. Will you come back and get them? And I was going to ask for forgiveness later. I wouldn't have needed any. So I reached out to her. I said, I just want to know what's going on with Pepper and Sebastian. And she said, well, I need to tell you that in 2017, Sebastian had a major seizure. And he went downhill really quickly after that, and we had to put him to sleep. This is the one my friend's son had described as having awesomeness in his heart. And she said after that, Pepper got really, really depressed. Like she wouldn't get up off of the floor, literally whining, crying, depressed. She said, I got to the point where I didn't know what to do. So I decided I was going to take her out to my uncle's farm to visit his Great Pyrenees, just to see if she could, perk up a little bit being around another dog. She said, we got out of the car at my uncle's farm. Pepper walked right over to my uncle's Great Pyrenees and proceeded to follow him around the whole farm. And she said, I just looked at my uncle and said, I think you've got a new dog. And he said, yeah, I think I've got a new dog. And so Pepper is happy and healthy and living on a farm with another Great Pyrenees. So as we were talking back and forth through Instagram private messaging, I said to her, thank you so much. Thanks for letting me know. I'm so sorry to hear about Sebastian, but it helps for me to know this. And then she said, you should know, those pups saved me. I was in a really terrible place mentally for a long time. And their joy and love and attentiveness kept me from the kind of loneliness that follows you when dealing with depression and anxiety. I know you would have done anything to keep them near you. But just know, they were an extraordinary gift to me. Maybe I had been blinded to the options 5 years ago because those babies had someplace they needed to be. Now, as I try to recover, most people, not everybody, let's put it that way, is as lucky as I am to have had a closing chapter on a tough decision. A lot of times we walk away from our tough decisions and we don't know. We don't know how it happened. We may not ever know the miracle that was contained therein. We may not know the purpose of it all, how everything ended up working together for good. We may still feel the pain. But in that moment, for that one, I got a little bit of healing. She gave a gift to me. And after 5 years of thinking about those two dogs every day, I got to let them go. I got to release. If only it was that easy with other decisions. So today we're going to talk about making peace with our decisions. How do we come to a place in our life where we accept this choice that we've made, when sometimes we look back on it and we have regret, right? So I've got an easy 3-step path for you today, because it's not a sermon if there aren't 3 points. So the first thing to do is to release. The first thing we have to do is to release. Now, if we can just release that, we probably don't even need the other 2 steps. I could have put this one last. But I think releasing at the beginning is a way to open up and allow you to do the work of the other steps. So how do we release? Well, the first step is to depersonalize the situation, right? In the 4 agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz says, don't take anything personally. It's one of the big 4. I know you know about that, KYSHONA. Those 4 agreements are agreements that anything that I'm struggling with, anything that I'm dealing with, I can always go back to those 4 agreements and figure out a little key to what's going on. So if we could depersonalize the situation, to not take anything personally, to step outside of it, and to allow it to be something separate from the core of who we are, right? Then we are able to deal with it a little bit better. What advice would you give a friend? It's one of the tools that I use a lot of times when I'm struggling with something a choice I've made in the past, or something that doesn't feel good inside of me. I'll step outside of myself and say, if a friend had this problem right now, what advice would you give to that friend? And a lot of times I'll just go ahead and name the friend, like Sue, right? Sorry for any Sues out there, but hey, Sue, look, I know you're dealing with, and I talk out loud, right? Talking out loud is something that helps me to release that as well. The second way to release, and this is really a big one for me, is to perform a physical act of release. To actually do something. It's, we can sit there and go, I'm trying to let go, I'm trying to let go, I'm trying to let go. Well, what are you doing to let go? I remember probably about 20 years ago, I heard, not in this building, but from this church, from Patricia Ryder, I believe, was the first person who told us about the God can. I don't know if you've ever heard the concept of the God can, but you can physically, literally get a can and write the God can on it, or write God and say, you know what, I can't figure this out right now, but I can't. The God can. The universe can. Let me put this in this can, let me release it and let go of it and send it out to the universe. Every year on New Year's, we do the burning bowl here at Unity, and we're going to do that again, by the way. Vic and I were just talking last week about the burning bowl service, and we're planning that for New Year's Eve, so get ready for that. But you don't have to wait for New Year's Eve to do a burning bowl, right? You just find something, a safe place. Don't do it at home under your cabinet or whatever. Find a safe place where you can build a fire. Write down the things that you need to let go of and you need to release and just put them into that fire. That's also something that you can do not just on the New Year's and not just anytime you want to, but it works really well for a nice little full moon ritual. And guess what? The full moon is tonight. So anything that you're carrying in your life that you need to let go of, this is a perfect day to do that. Actually, the full moon is at 3:30 in the morning Central Standard Time, but I won't tell anybody if you go ahead and do it tonight and release under the full moon. The third physical act of release for me is prayer and gratitude. Now, prayer means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I was on Facebook this week. A friend of mine on Facebook put something about prayer, and interestingly, she's an atheist. But she was talking about the importance of prayer in her life and what prayer is for her. Right? Emerson said that prayer is the contemplation of the facts of life from the highest point of view. Emerson also said that when a farmer kneels in the field to plant, that's a prayer. Right? When a mother takes care of her child, that's a prayer. When we do the work, do what it is we're here to do, that is an act of prayer. But for me, when I'm trying to release something, what really works is to talk out loud. My best way to start prayers is to say, look, here's the deal, right? It works every time. I have a long history of look, here's the deal prayers. But if I can talk out loud to the universe, to God, to Jehovah, to Gaia, to whatever it is that's the higher power in your life, to the energy of creation, talking out loud, putting it for, you've manifested it. You've made it something alive in the universe. And when I can say, listen, this is bothering me again. This is visiting me. I'm regretting it. I'm feeling pain over it. I need to release it. I need to release it, and I'm going to do that now. Will you please just take it, whoever it is who's out there listening? And guess what? It does. It releases. It lets go. It always helps that we have the gratitude piece in there. It's the best way to release, is to enter into a place of thanksgiving. Start counting all of the things that you can be grateful for. The second way to make peace with our decisions, and I'm sorry that got cut off on the bottom there, I tried to make it bigger, become proactive, right? I've got a friend, years ago, a friend of mine always used to say, let's do something, even if it's wrong. And now, I'm not recommending that you adopt that philosophy, but the idea was always a good one. You know, my mother always said, when I would say that I was sick, you know, I was be at 8 years old, 9 years old, and mom would come in and get me up for school, and I would say, I don't feel good. And every single time she said, just get up and move around, you'll feel better. So I've always said, I'm going to put that on her tombstone one day. Just get up and move around, you'll feel better, right? But the truth is, she was right. When you get up and move around and do something, you start to feel better, right? Now, there's some important things in this act of releasing our poor choices, our residue from the past, about this type of proactivity. First off, I think it's important to be proactive within the art of allowing. So, you know, Abraham, Esther Hicks, talks about the art of allowing, and it's simply this idea that you let go, you just let go and let life flow. Because I think that regret is often just the illusion that we ever had control to start with. It's just the illusion of control. So maybe for a moment, I can entertain the thought that everything happened just the way it should. Could you do that with the worst choices you've made, those choices that have had the biggest impact on your life? Can you go back and say, what if that was exactly what was supposed to happen? maybe just allow the past to be the past. The art of allowing is to make peace with things as they are. Just make peace with things as they are. So becoming proactive within the art of allowing. Oddly, and here's another one of those paradoxes, I think that sometimes allowing life to happen is an action that we have to take. Non-action is an action. Non-action is a choice that we make. Within that art of allowing, when you feel strong enough, I'm a big advocate of a private reckoning. That has been some of the most important times in my own life, that looking in the mirror kind of thing, right? When I feel strong enough, sometimes I wasn't ready. I couldn't own my stuff at that moment. And I think it's okay to step back and say, I can't deal with that right now. But when you feel strong enough to sit down and say, what is the honest truth of this situation? Because healing only comes through authenticity, honesty. So can I take a moment here to be really honest with myself? Am I strong enough to do that? I went looking for a picture that had to do with, thoughtfulness, reckoning with yourself, being alone, being thoughtful. And here's something interesting. Every single picture that I found had somebody next to water. So water has such a powerful cleansing energy. And it reminded me that a lot of times that personal reckoning that I do with myself is in the shower. In that moment, I am alone. The water is creating this kind of shield for me. It's cleansing me. It's allowing me to release. It's allowing me to let go. Reach out carefully, right? So there are instances with choices in our past where you might need to make amends with someone. It's one of the major steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Of any of the NA or AA steps, is to make amends with someone. And sometimes you need to go back and say, look, I made a poor decision and it impacted you. And I'm sorry about that. But here's some important information to keep in mind about this reaching out business. It needs to feel safe. So if you don't yet feel capable or strong enough or safe enough to do that, then hold on. Just let it go. Allow it to be. Another thing to remember is if you're reaching out for the purpose of explaining yourself, don't reach out. Because it's not going to do any good. It's just going to set up that impasse again. Reach out to create a bridge. Don't reach out to explain yourself. Only reach out if you're trying to reconnect or repair. And then another way to be proactive is to do something, right? Do something even if it's wrong, not quite that. But do something else. Maybe do a sideways move here and find some other way to engage in your world. Do something even if it's not connected to the problem. Get up and take a walk. Move through that. So becoming proactive. I know that I have never, ever, ever let go of something that's chewing on my mind or my memories by just sitting there and stewing in them. I've never let go of them by doing that. So getting up and taking a walk. The third step then in making peace with our decisions is to create a new relationship with your past. How do we recreate this past, reframe the past, if you will? So the number one way to do that, of course, is to stay in the present moment. Now we know this, we talk about this all the time, be here now. Right? Stay in the present moment. But if we can really do it, know that our life is contained in the split second of now and nowhere else, then all of a sudden, those things from the past no longer have as much power over us. We often get deluded into thinking that we visit our memories in the past. But the truth is that our memories visit us in the present. And they're trying to make us think that they're just as alive and just as real as they were back then, but they're not. They're just a remembrance, right? I was watching, believe it or not, TikTok last night, my new favorite form of entertainment. And every now and then, somebody comes on TikTok and says something really profound. And this guy came on TikTok last night, and he essentially said this: if we can remember our past, and for a moment we are connected to a memory in the past, maybe as we are facing a decision in the present, the gut feeling or the hesitation or whatever it is that we feel is actually our future self visiting this memory and trying to tell us not to do it. Now, we're just weird enough around here to believe that. But it was a great thought for me that maybe there is, we try to follow our intention here in the Unity way of life, our intuition, in the Unity way of life. And that intuitive guide may simply be a voice from our future self telling us to stop and be careful. The other way to do this, create a new relationship with your past, is to put your memories through the work. Now, the work, of course, is something from Byron Katie. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Byron Katie and the work. Most of us are here in Unity, but if you're not, go look her up. It's a very simple, much like Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 agreements. Byron Katie has 4 questions that you ask around any situation, and that is the work that we do in order to transform something, right? So it's these 4 simple questions. Is it true? Can I absolutely know that it's true? What happens when I believe that thought? And who would I be without that thought? So when I think back on all those years, 5 years that I spent fretting over letting Pepper and Sebastian go to a new home, all those times that it would come back and visit me and insert itself again into my present experience and try to make me feel a certain way. And I would always feel guilt, right? I would feel guilt, and I would feel a sense that I had done them wrong. And if I could stop and say, you know what, is it true? Is it true that I need to feel guilty? Is it true that I did something that hurt them, right? Yes or no? Can I know that? Can I absolutely know that it's true? Well, the truth is no, I can't. I can't absolutely know it's true because they weren't around me. I didn't know what had happened. I had to let go of my idea that I could guess what their futures held. And then if I ask myself, what happens when I believe that thought? Well, what happens is I feel badly, right? I feel bad. I feel horrible. I feel like a bad person. I feel like, I feel like maybe somebody out there has the wrong idea about me, right? That's a biggie. I feel like somebody has an idea because they're stuck in the decision of the past. All they remember of me is that decision that I made. And maybe they're carrying that for years now. So what happens when I believe this thought is that I feel badly. Who would I be without that thought? Who would I be if I could let go of regret? Who would I be if I could let go of the idea that I made a poor decision, that I did something horrible in the past? Who would I be? I'll tell you who I'd be. I'd be free. I'd be free. Right? That's who I would be. So, what is your Pepper and Sebastian decision? If you can't think of one in your past, then God bless you. I would like to sit at your feet and learn. But most of us have choices that linger in our mind or our spirit, those far back decisions that we made that still haunt us. And who would you be today if you could let those go? Truly let them go. You know, making decisions is part of the human experience. We make 35,000 of them a day. I think we'd be a bit delusional to believe that we would only make good ones, or that we would only make ones that would never haunt us, follow us around through life. But the good news is that the choices we've made that continue to cause psychological pain in our memory can be reframed and transformed and released. You may have a Pepper and Sebastian decision that haunts you at times, but I will bet that you also have some Buddy and Rocky decisions, right? These are our two pups now. They're small enough for an apartment. We now live in a house, but they were small enough for an apartment. And I remember after I got Buddy, about 6 months later, he brought so much joy to my life. I said to my mother one time on the phone, I said, this is one of the best decisions I've ever made. Buddy is one of the best decisions I've ever made. And my mother reminds me of that periodically. I kind of forgot that I said that to her, and every now and then she'll say, well, that's your best decision. And I'm like, yep, he sure is. You probably have a few Buddy and Rocky decisions too, choices that were among your best, choices that bring you a residue of joy, choices that have a fallout of love that you can remember and cling to and hold to, especially when the pain of the past wants to intrude into your daily life. We get second chances. We get new opportunities, and we are daily redeemed by the new dawn. Namaste.
I have some phone calls to make when I'm done now, based off of today's talk. Thank you, Deb. Thinking about that point of release, sometimes it's important to lay those burdens down, leave them on the rock, and not bring them with you into the present, right, Deb? Yeah.
As I walk to the river, my knees start to quiver. Is there enough water in the world to wash me clean? My heart starts racing. All these demons I've been chasing tell me that I'm not the kind, no, to be set free. Looking for grace in the graveyard, finding the light can be so hard. Oh, I've been under it and I've been over it, yes. Lord knows I've hit rock bottom. You can crawl through the dark, get lose sight of it all. Well, you can lay your burdens down. Yes, I feel the winds are changing, and my worries get to fading as I stand on that rock that's been trying to pull me down, pull me down. Oh, I'm done with the hate crime. Oh, yeah, to myself I've been unkind. Goodness in me that was lost, yes, Lord, has now been found. Yes, I leave the chains in the graveyard. I take the light and a new start. Oh, I've been under it and I've been over it, yes. Lord knows I've hit rock bottom. You can crawl through the dark and lose sight of it all. You can lay your burdens down. Yes, I've been under it, yes. I've been over it. Lord knows I've hit rock bottom. I've heard those voices call. You can crawl through the dark and lose sight of it all. Or you can lay your burdens down. Yeah, yes, Lord. Lay 'em down, lay 'em down, lay 'em down. I'm gonna take that rock, throw it in the river, gonna lay my burdens down. Gonna take that rock, throw it in the river, gonna lay my burdens down. Gonna take that rock, throw it in the river, gonna lay my burdens down. I'm gonna take that rock, throw it in the river, gonna lay my burdens down. Yes, yes, I've been under it and I've been over it. Yes, Lord knows I've hit a rock bottom. I've heard those voices call. You can crawl through the dark and lose sight of it all, or you can lay your burdens down. You can crawl through the dark and lose sight of it all, or you can lay your burdens down. Do we want to do the end? Lay 'em down. Yeah. Lay 'em down. Come on and lay 'em down. 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 Yes. Lay 'em down. Yes. Lay 'em down. Yes. All your prayers. Oh, yes. Lay 'em down. Yeah. All your choices you've made. Lay 'em down. Oh, yeah. Lay 'em down. Lay 'em down. Yes. Lay 'em down. Come on and lay 'em down. Lay 'em. Lay 'em. Lay 'em down. Yeah. Lay 'em down. Lay 'em down. Lay 'em. Lay 'em. Lay 'em. Lay 'em down. 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 Lay 'em down.
Stay right there. Thank you guys so much for being with us today. Let's say the prayer of protection to close the service. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all